guys. I kind of had an art epiphany, you could say, an art revelation the other day. So today's video is about kind of chasing that down. I don't know exactly what happened, but the other day I just decided, like extremely strongly, that my main goal with my art is that I want to become a real master at like line art and inking, and I want to do it mostly with traditional methods, so like pen on paper. And I've definitely had this thought before, but I don't know, it just really gripped me completely, like the other day. This idea that I know what I want and I know how to get there, I just have to like sit down and do it. Like a real like conviction, I think, more than ever before about what exactly like I want to do with my art. And I know that in order to achieve this, I need to improve my inking skills. So that's what we're gonna do today. I have a copy of Rendering in Pen and Ink by Arthur Guptill. It's like a PDF copy. So hold on. Here, Rendering in Pen and Ink by Arthur L. Guptill, edited by Susan E. Meyer. This book has a lot of like exercises and stuff that you can do to kind of really get a better grasp on very like foundational pen and ink techniques. So I'm going to do some of the practice exercises from this book today, and then hopefully apply what I've learned to an actual illustration. So we'll see how that all goes. I'll take you along with me. I have a little bit of like a story time. Is that still a thing that people do? Anyway, I have a little bit of a story to tell you guys. I went on like an art adventure today. But yeah, so we're gonna go through some of these exercises. There's a lot of really simple ones that I want to do. First, he goes over like the materials that you would need in this book. I've got my materials here. I've got one of these guys, a little dip pen. I got some ink, which is why I had to go on an adventure, which I will tell you about later. And I have a pencil for sketching later. So this is all I need. He wants you to get other stuff, but I don't believe him. I think he's overestimating what I will need. So this is the kind of thing we're going to be doing today, and then applying to a actual illustration. So yeah, I hope you'll enjoy it. Anyway, this morning I was ready with my sketchbook and my dip pen and my bottle of ink, and I went to open up the bottle of India ink that I've had sitting on my shelf for like 4 years, only to find, after using my teeth to force the bottle open, that it had turned into molasses at some point along the way and became this horrible, thick, viscous fluid that would not actually tip out of the bottle even though I had completely tipped it over. So I had to go on a little bit of an adventure to find a new bottle of ink, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. The new bottle of ink that I got was also a little bit scary. I got ink all over myself opening it up for the first time, and the bottle opening is extremely wide, so I'm not a huge fan of the design. I've gotten this ink before and I remember the bottle looking very different, but it's fine. And I got a ink all over me, but it's fine, and it didn't bother me like at all. I didn't even care even a little bit. It was fine. The exercises in Rendering in Pen and Ink are designed to help you increase stability and line confidence, to learn how to go from thick to thin in a single straight or curved stroke, and how to get your lines to start and stop right where you want them to. All essential skills for anyone wanting to improve their line art. They also help you work out how to render different tones and textures. I like his book because he encourages you to make up your own practice exercises as well, so you may find something unique that you like to do, or sort of like a signature way of building up tone or a way to express a certain texture that you need for a specific piece. I think having done these exercises, my biggest problem is starting and ending lines where I want them. I can draw relatively straight lines, but they kind of go all over the place, if that makes sense. They kind of tend to wander rather than going directly to where I want them to. But I think that finding out what you need to fix is kind of the biggest part of the puzzle as far as getting better goes, because once you know what the problem is, then you can work on fixing it. So after I finished doing some of the practice exercises, I decided I needed to apply that practice to an actual drawing. Rendering in pen and ink offers some examples of illustrations you can copy, so I had initially planned on doing one of those, but I ended up just deciding that I wanted to do an illustration of my own instead. I've been thinking a lot about these two characters recently, Peter and William. Peter is the one on the left, and William is the one on the right. I'm still really workshopping their story and the setting they exist in, but I know that it's a fantasy setting with dragons and necromancy, and that their world is also at about the same point in history as ours was during the Regency era and the Napoleonic Wars, so from about 1800 to 1815. This is about 20 years before the Victorian era, ending 1 year before Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein as well, just to give some context, if that helps. Essentially, this means that people are fighting each other with swords, horses, and cannons, but also rifles, and in this setting, a little bit of magic as well. William is a soldier, and he's a character I've had for a really long time. I'm changing him quite a bit for this story. Usually he's a naval officer, but I've been thinking a lot about making him a cavalry officer instead. And Peter, he isn't a soldier. I think he's some form of nobility. I haven't really worked that out yet for him. He is also technically undead, which will probably be important as the story progresses. Ultimately, even though they don't necessarily get along, they will have to team up to kill an evil Lich King, I think, anyway. I'm not 100%, like I said. But I just wanted to draw them together, giving each other some disapproving looks. I'm hoping to do better illustrations for them both soon, though, something with a little bit more going on, and maybe a nice portrait for each of them, kind of in their element. And then, obviously, eventually I'm going to have to start drawing them interacting more so that I can get a better feel for their story and how they will interact. While drawing these two, I realized that rendering in pen and ink lacks a bit in drawing natural forms. There are some landscapes in the book to copy from, but there are a lot of still lifes and architecturally focused landscapes, and also a focus on interiors and architectural design. I think it would have been nice if there were more people and animals to see how the techniques are applied to those kinds of figures as well. There are some examples from other artists, but the book itself doesn't really get into it, which is fine, I suppose. I think generally I dislike some of the times where a face is really heavily rendered with a lot of hatching. Obviously, sometimes it's necessary to convey shading and tone, but it's not necessarily my preference for what I'm going for. And the books do give you a lot of examples of really masterful ink drawing, so I suppose you could kind of learn from those as well. Forever and ever, I've been so inspired by the works of other artists who work in simply black and white with maybe a little bit of tone or color occasionally. And I think really looking at my inspirations and seeing what kinds of work really spark something in me is kind of what led me to make the decision of the direction that I want my art to be going in. So artists like Edward Gorey, Charles Dana Gibson, Bertie Wrightson, whose very sumptuous Frankenstein illustrations are just so amazing. And then more contemporary artists like Himome Shirahima, who made Witch Hat Atelier, Juliette Brocal, who does a lot of historically inspired illustrations, and Gary Gianni, whose work I first encountered while flipping through one of George R.R. Martin's books at the bookstore, and I went, oh my god, and I went home to go and look at Gianni's work on the internet instead of shopping for books, because it's so beautiful. I don't know, it feels like kind of stepping back in time to look at his work. It's very cool. So that is a lot of artists to draw inspiration from, and there are probably some more that I can't think of off the top of my head, but I think that what this indicates to me is that this really is the kind of art or the way of working that really inspires me. It gets me so excited And I think it's just all so beautiful and cool, and like I want to do that too. And obviously like I'm not there yet, but if I could get like even half as good as some of these artists, I think that would be a major success for me. So that's my new goal. It's what we're gonna be doing. There's gonna be a lot of black and white ink drawings on this channel coming up, so I hope you'll enjoy them. But yeah, that's definitely the direction I'm taking my art, and I've just decided to like commit and like send it. We're gonna get there. One day I will be a master at pen and ink drawing. Oh, and now I can tell you a little bit about the adventure I had while I was trying to get some India ink. So my first steps on my adventure, like anyone going to go buy something, was to make sure that the store was open. So I looked online and I was like, oh man, these art stores that are closest to me aren't open. And I looked a little bit closer at one because I was like, I'm positive that this store is open on Saturdays. And lo and behold, upon closer inspection, they were open. And so I was like, oh, okay, great. I go there. It's like a 5-minute walk. It's not a big deal. And as I approach, I see big signs in the window, 60 to 90% off. And I'm like, oh my God, awesome. A big sale. My ink's going to be so cheap. And I walked up and I was shocked, horrified actually, to find that the store had closed permanently the day before, which is really sad because the store had been there for years, like more years than I've been alive, and I feel like it was a real fixture in the city for art supplies. And just like because it's so close to kind of the neighborhood that I've always lived in, it's like, I don't know, it feels like losing a part of the city in a way, which was quite sad. But the art store was closed permanently, so I had to continue on my way. It was a really lovely day, and it wasn't really a problem. I got to see a nice dog. I almost got run over by someone who didn't know what a red light means, and I walked past a new plant store. Very, very tempting. But I was on a mission. I finally get to the art store. It's like a 20-minute walk, not a very long walk, but you know, I finally get there. And I think they were doing inventory or like reorganizing or something, because there was like a small army of employees swarming around the art store, and they were being extremely helpful, maybe like a little bit too helpful. I was trying to see if some of the inks that they had, like if one was more matte than the other, because sometimes ink can be kind of glossy and I don't really like that. I want it to be as matte as possible. So I was just looking on my phone, and then because like also the inks were the same price and about the same volume, so I was like, I don't know which one I should buy. And in the span of time it took me to look up on my phone, is this ink matte? 4 different employees came up to me to ask me if I needed help, which seemed kind of extreme, and I'm not sure that they didn't think I was trying to like steal their dip pen nibs or something. I don't know. It was fine. Ultimately, it's like not a big deal, but it was very odd, although I do appreciate their drive to help me, but it did make it hard for me to make a decision. So eventually I got the one that was supposedly more matte of the two. And then I also bought a new kneaded eraser because I had seen it while I was looking for the inks, and I was like, my kneaded eraser sucks and is like 7 years old and really needs to go in the garbage. So I got a new one. And it's very, very nice. I quite like it. And then I went on my way. I did, however, make the fatal mistake of walking past the plant store again. The siren call of a new plant called to me, and I heeded it. I haven't bought a new plant in probably 3 or 4 years. I used to work at a garden center and have a bunch of plants in my room, and then I don't anymore. The lighting situation has changed dramatically over the years as new buildings have been built, and a lot of my plants did not weather that new storm so well. And so I went into the plant store, and it was so cute in there, and it was so full of plants, and the guy who worked there was very nice, and he was able to help me find a new plant. So I did end up buying one. I have some ZZ plants in my room, but I have to keep them like up and away because they're not super great for animals, but this new one is apparently pet friendly, and even though I'm hoping they won't chew on it, it makes me feel comfortable putting it actually on my desk, which makes me very happy. And it's very tall and very beautiful, and it's very broad and attractive leaves, so I'm a big fan of my new plant and the new pot that I got, and I'm just very pleased. Then I came home and repotted my plant and made a coffee and started drawing. So all in all, it was a very nice day, and I hope you had a nice day too, whenever it is that you're watching this. In the end, I think the illustration came out okay. I'm still not super confident with a dip pen, and as we kind of discussed in the first practice part, my lines don't always go where I want them to. But I ultimately had fun, and I took the first steps on a path to being very happy with my art, and I am happy with it ultimately because of this. I did go in and touch it up a bit with some whiteout and also in Clip Studio Paint after, just because I had a bit of a blobby ink incident when trying to draw Peter's eyelid and Will's eye, especially Peter's eyelid. I don't know, my ink pen just went like blip and put like a big blob. It was very upsetting. And I think also for next time I should try drawing larger, because I think it will be much easier in some ways. In others it'll probably be more difficult, but yeah, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I also hope to see you around again in the future. Bye!